So, Matt, the other day I was in here in the graveyard and I was writing dad jokes all over the walls and stuff. And Ashley walks in and she goes, "What in the world are you doing?" I said, babe, read the room. I mean, some of the jokes were over her head, but
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable, because this is Graveyard Tales.
all right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing all right.
Good
How
deal.
about you?
Ah, surviving.
Yeah.
As we've talked about before, the graveyard recording and stuff is a good reprieve from daily stuff. So I'm doing better now that I'm in here and focused on this. So it's my safe space. Before
Man,
we get in,
I tell you what, I am like wall-eyed tonight. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me.
I don't know.
I'm like,
I don't know.
it's like, I've been pretty busy this week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So my third job started this week. So I guess that's added a little bit to my my already busy schedule.
Yeah.
And it's catching up with me. Midweek I'm kind of like, oh Lord help me.
Yep.
I felt really good most of the day, and it inevitably, it'll be on a night we're going to record that I'll be like, all of a sudden, like I'm just waiting for my forehead to hit the mic, some nights. So, but the show must go on.
Yeah. Well, the good news is this isn't live, so I can wake you up if need be, and we can keep plugging. But yeah, I've said before, last week, in fact, that I keep thinking we need to change the day we record because it seems like everything goes haywire
right
when we record. And then I was like, no, if I change the day I record, it won't keep going haywire on that day. It'll change to recording
it'll just
day.
Move, yeah. It'll follow you.
Yeah. So it's recording day that everything seems to happen. But like you said, show goes on and we just keep plugging.
Let me tell you what my experience has been with that is that, at least for me, crap goes nuts every day. If I'm not as busy, it doesn't seem like as big of a deal.
Right.
So wherever I move it, I'm just like, do I want to deal with that kind of garbage on the day that I need to record, or this kind of garbage that I already expect?
That's true.
It's kind of like the devil,
Yeah. Yep. Well, and we've tried almost every day of the week to record.
Almost, yeah.
I think maybe it is every day of the week. I'm trying to think of what day.
We've never
Tuesday.
done Friday.
That's true.
Friday has never been a regular for us. We've done Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Have we done Tuesday? I can't remember Tuesday.
Yeah, we did. I think we did Tuesday at the very beginning.
Okay. That's been a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to think back. But I know we never did Friday because, I think you're the same way. Fridays are sacred.
Yes. Yeah, don't mess with my Friday if we don't have to.
Right.
I think the only time we've done anything is if like Halloween was on a Friday or something.
Yeah.
And
we've done some Friday live shows before.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yeah. But before we get into it, I know we talked a whole bunch here, more than normal in the beginning, but we'll say go check out the Podbelly Network at podbelly.com. You can find a list of shows that we're happy to be associated with, and you can find some tips and tricks on podcasting if you're looking to get into the podcasting game. So go over to podbelly.com and check it out. Also go over to patreon.com/Graveyard Tales. You can sign up to become a patron, and our patrons right now are what is keeping the show going.
Right.
Our ads have kind of been in the crapper here lately with economy, and our ad partners are just not buying the ads that they were. So our patrons are what are really keeping the show going, keeping it free, and keeping us able to keep up the quality of audio and everything that we want to produce. So go over there, patreon.com/Graveyard Tales, sign up to become a patron if you're not already. We got a bunch of, it's a huge back catalog of episodes that you can check out, all over the place in topic wise. There's some ad-free episodes over there when we did have ads. Our $10 a month patrons get our side quest episodes, which is the new show that we're doing. Nothing to do with Graveyard Tales. It's a whole other realm of Matt and I. If you want to hear us just try to make the other one laugh or freak the other one out, that's the place to go. It is blue. So if you're one of those people that commented early on, why don't y'all cuss on your show? Well, you now have a show that you can hear us speak the way we normally speak without censoring our mouths on the fly. So patreon.com/Graveyard Tales and sign up. So Matt, that's all I got for housekeeping. So why don't you tell us, what are we talking about tonight, brother?
All right. So tonight we're going to look at another haunted hotel. This one is, this one falls in with places like the Stanley, Banff Springs, these large resort type hotels, the ones that when you drive up to them, they look scary.
Yeah.
They look like, if that looks like too much like The Shining, and I even read where people said this place reminded them of the hotel that's in the movie The Shining.
I can see that.
We're going to talk about the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire.
Yep.
I don't know that we've covered a haunted place in New Hampshire.
I don't think we have.
I can't recall that we have. So we're venturing into in a state that we have never really looked at.
I
as
have
far
never
as haunted
set foot.
places go.
I've never set foot in New Hampshire.
Nor have I.
I know the most I know about New Hampshire is what I read during research. That's what I know about New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So
I've only met like a handful of people that were from New Hampshire.
Is this one of those places that we're not convinced is real?
Yeah, it's not a real state.
Because there's been a few of those here lately.
It's not real. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's there. But I'm not 100% sure because I've never been there.
Well, I mean, if it's real, New Hampshire, where is Hampshire?
Where's Old Hampshire?
Yeah, exactly. I've never heard of Old Hampshire here in the States.
It's in England, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it is. But if it's New Hampshire here, I want an Old Hampshire here, too.
That's right.
So, like we always say, go check our sources down at the bottom of the show notes. You can find where we found all the information for this and where I learned everything I know about New Hampshire. Down there in the bottom of the show notes, you can continue the research if you'd like, because there is more history to be talked about than what I'm going to cover here. But I tried to pick the highlights for it. But like Matt was saying, the Mount Washington Hotel, it sits at 310 Mount Washington Hotel Road in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. So it has its own road, kind of like the Opry Mills does there in Nashville, sits on Opry Mills Drive.
That's right. If you build the road, you get to name it.
Well, I'm going to build me a road.
Yeah. I mean, I have patients that have, their driveway is officially a road.
That's cool.
And it's named after them. And I'm like, man, I would get way more creative,
Yeah, than just Matt Road.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I would come up with something just totally obscure. Go
Yeah,
up there on like
Matt Boulevard.
Yeah, Severed Head Road, you know?
Right. The ghost of old Tom Joad Road.
Yeah. Really get after it, you know? The only rule is that it can't be profane, and you can't have another road in the county with the same name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that leaves, a wide open door to play with. So,
Yep. You could do it. Boogity, 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 let's go racing Boulevard.
I'm sure somebody would have tried that, especially here.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe North Carolina.
Yep. Now, Bretton Woods, where the hotel is, it's part of a land grant that was actually made in 1772 by Royal Governor John Wentworth. And the area was named after Bretton Hall, which was his ancestral home in Yorkshire, England. So I guess they're just keeping it in the naming stuff after English places here in New Hampshire. But they broke ground on the hotel in 1900, and its construction was completed in 1902. Here's what I noticed, Matt. We talk about a bunch of these places, and they start construction and end construction within 2 years most of the time. I think the longest we've seen was 3 years for them to say they completed construction. Why is it that then in the early 1900s, they could finish an entire hotel like this in 2 years? Now they go to build something and they build on it for 8 years. You have construction for 8 years in the same spot. Like, especially there in downtown Nashville, when they're redoing the convention center or whatever, you're redoing it and it takes you 5-6 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They built this thing in New Hampshire in 2 years, and look at the size of this thing.
It's massive. It looks, it does look remarkably like the Stanley, as far as it's that big. It looks maybe a little bigger. But I mean, it is huge. And, stuck out there kind of in the countryside, in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a presence.
Oh, it is.
You see it and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yep. Now the superstructure of the Mount Washington Hotel was made of a steel network, which was uncommon during that time. So again, they built this thing, steel network, in 2 years. It was built by New Hampshire native Joseph Stickney, and he made his fortune in coal mining and the Pennsylvania Railroad. Well, Stickney apparently spared no expense in building this hotel. The latest design construction methods were used, and they used innovative and complicated heating and plumbing systems in the hotel. And to this day, Bretton Woods Hotel has its own private telephone system and post office. So I'm going to go back to this, that 2 years, and they got it done. And we did what in 2 years? They maybe laid a foundation. I know I'm stuck on this, but I just can't get over how quickly they build stuff. And it's not like you can't tell me, well, they didn't do as good a job because it's already fallen down. No, this was still construction and it's still up.
Yeah, that's right.
124 years later. But whatever. I'll get off that soapbox.
They don't build them like they used to.
Amen to that.
You sound like a grumpy old man.
I'm getting there. My birthday's just around the corner, so
that's right.
It's,
you need to get a rocking chair and sit on your front porch, scream at kids to get off your lawn.
Yep. I already got the water hose nozzle ready for when they step foot on my lawn. I'll just blast them with the water hose. Now, they hired 250 Italian craftsmen to work on building this hotel. These craftsmen, they were skilled in masonry and woodworking, and they were brought to the Bretton Woods there just specifically for this project, and they lived on the grounds while the project was going on. So they were in the Bretton Woods day and night, working during the day, and then they just move a little ways over into their lodging and stay there at night. So brought families, all this stuff, but only 250 craftsmen did that whole hotel. They imported china from overseas. They had hand-colored postcards and playing cards that were brought into the hotel. So they really fancied it up with a lot of stuff. Now, on July 28th, 1902, the front doors of the hotel opened to the public, and they had a staff of no less than 350 people. So they staffed it with about 100 more people than built it. The Mount Washington Hotel at the time was the most luxurious hotel anywhere in that area.
Yeah.
And
because they're always trying to outdo,
right. Right.
Oh, that one was the most luxurious one 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to do something to make it more luxurious. I don't know how you make it more luxurious.
Complicated
we've got
heating.
a fountain. We've got a fountain in the lobby. We've
what was those
sheets or something? I don't know.
What was the one we did that had an alligator in the lobby? It was one here in Texas, I think, that had a.
Oh, yeah. I can't.
They named the alligator, and
we've done several hotels in Texas, but I don't remember talking about that.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but that's how you make it more luxurious. You put customers' lives in danger when they walk through your. But because it was the most luxurious hotel, they catered to wealthy guests from Boston, New York, Philadelphia, all around that area. And the hotel actually hosted a ton of celebrities in its heyday. That included Thomas Edison, the guy who invented the motion picture cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Joan Crawford, John Maynard Keynes, an economist, Babe Ruth, Joseph P. Kennedy, Princess Margaret, Alfred Hitchcock, John D. Rockefeller, and 3 U.S. presidents. So they had a good list of celebrities showing up.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was a big thing too. So-and-so stayed here, especially if it was like a movie star or a president.
Right.
That was always a big thing. Well, if it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, the hotel had a conservatory. It still does, but originally it was called the Hemicycle. It was a half-circle shaped sun parlor made almost entirely of plate glass with stunning views of the presidential range. The dome ceiling, ringed with Tiffany glass, gives the room natural acoustics that they say make it ideal for concerts, lectures, and poetry readings. And the room is also home to an original 1881 Steinway piano.
Ah.
So it sounds like a neat place if you were to go hear a pianist play, this sounds like a cool place for acoustics and all that stuff.
Careful, it's a family show.
I know. That's why I enunciated it. I've said that before and didn't enunciate it and almost got myself in trouble. What? There were as many as 50 trains a day that would actually stop in the Bretton Woods, because the Bretton Woods had 3 different train stations. Now, one of these train stations, Fabian's, has actually been turned into one of the resort's dining establishments. So that's kind of cool. You can go eat in an old train station.
Yeah, that is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like, they're in Chattanooga, where you can eat you can stay in the train station, but they've also got like, rooms that you can stay in old train cars, or, I think, don't they have a diner in one of those train cars out back of the Chattanooga Choo Choo?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. I thought they did. I could be wrong. But in 1907, the Omni Breton Arms Inn opens as guest accommodations facility, and it would handle overflow from the Mount Washington Hotel. So the Mount Washington Bretton Woods area was so popular, they built a second inn there on the same grounds to handle overflow. Now, can you imagine paying for a room at the Mount Washington Hotel, and you get there and they're like, you're in the Breton Arms Inn next door? You're like, no, I paid for here. It's
look,
over here.
I've been looking at it on satellite images on Google Maps. It's not next door. I mean, I guess officially it's next door.
Yeah.
But when I first saw it, I didn't realize that's what it was. And I was like, man, they built another hotel awfully close to this hotel. And it's not like you're driving down a strip off the interstate where there's one every, they're like 4 or 5 lined up next to one another. This is like out in the mountains, and you look and there's another hotel that appears to be on the edge of the property, but it is not like close. You wouldn't walk out of the lobby and walk there. I mean, you'd have to drive there, take a shuttle bus or something. I mean, it's not right there. So yeah, it would suck, if that's what you were aiming for. And then they're like, you get overflow and you're down in the
let's get your bags to the room, sir. Okay. Well, why are you loading them in a horse and carriage? Well, you're going to need to get in there too, sir. Now, Joseph Stickney, the guy who built it, he died just 1 year after the hotel opened.
Man, that sucks.
It's gotta suck. I mean, you do all this, and this is your dream, and then you kick the bucket. Well, he did leave the resort to his wife, Carolyn Stickney. Now, she stayed every summer at the hotel that she now owned, and this says hopelessly rich because she got Stickney's cash and then fell in love and married a French prince. So she was stacked both ways, from the hotel and her ex-husband's money, then her new husband, a French prince. And when I have to admit, when I first read this, I read it as Fresh Prince.
I'm like, I didn't know he was that old.
Yeah, she married Will Smith. That's awesome. He looks good for his age.
Yeah, that's right. He's 135 years old.
But all this money, she became a fixture at the hotel, and they say she was marked for her princessdom and eccentricities.
Uh-huh.
So, you get a lot of money, you somehow become eccentric.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the things she did, to give you an idea of how eccentric she really was, is she was known to stand at the top of the stairs and judge everybody based on what they were wearing and so forth.
Well, now, Matt, that's not that eccentric. I do the same thing. If Ashley and I go somewhere, we'll just stand in the lobby and judge people. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. No, it's pretty funny that she did that. She's like, I'm keeping the riffraff out of my hotel.
And
that guy's shoes aren't polished.
Enough. Yeah, did it enough that they wrote it down.
Yeah, right.
Like, this was one of her favorite pastimes. You know,
what's her hobbies? What's her hobbies? Judging. She just loves to be judgmental.
But part of it was she didn't want to be outshined.
Right.
Okay. So if there were guests there that were really done up, with, extravagant gowns and whatever, she was going to go back and get something even more extravagant to wear before she came down to go to dinner.
Right.
I mean, that was just nobody is going to outdo me in my own hotel.
Mm-hmm. And see, I'd be the The way I am, I'd walk down in cowboy boots and ripped denim and go, judge me if you want. You're in my place.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, this is my hotel. You're staying here.
Walk around like you own it.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I do own this. That's why I'm down here in my boxer briefs eating dinner in nothing but a tattered shirt and my underwear. Now, one of her other eccentricities, she only ever slept in her bed. And that sounds, well, duh, but no. She had a travel set that she could take with her back to the south of France when she spent her winters there. So she had a travel bed set that she would move with her wherever she went. So she always had her bed. Like, instead of having a bed there and a bed here, no, she took it with her everywhere she went.
Why not just buy two of them?
That's what I'm saying.
Because think about it. If I told you today, I only sleep in my bed. So when I travel, I take my bed with me. That you would go, God, that's got to be a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a pain in the butt now. Imagine what it was like then, regardless of how much money you had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to move an entire bed set from New Hampshire to the south of France.
Yep. And it was the set because her whole bedroom furniture went with her. You know, side tables, headboard. It wasn't just like, here, I want my mattress to go. It was like, this bedroom, pack this bedroom up and let's move it to France.
God.
Now I'm going back to New Hampshire, so pack this bedroom up and let's take it back to New Hampshire. So that's wild to me. Just wild.
Just for probably a few months.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 2-3 months. She'd spend there in France and then come back. I mean,
Nuts.
I don't get it. But despite the fact that she reserved a single person table at the restaurant every night, she also kept a personal dining table in her suite. Her original bedroom furniture remains in the room today, which is number 314.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to stay in her room with her original bedroom furniture and sleep on the mattress that's been to and from France, then go to 314. I'm sure they changed the mattress by now, but it's a better joke if I don't say that.
That's right. It is the bed, though.
Right. But her dining table actually still sits in the hotel's gold room, and they set it for dinner every night. So they keep that tradition going here. Now, one of the other rooms in the hotel is the Princess Room, which was formerly the private dining room of Carolyn Stickney, where important guests would be invited to dine with her. So, you know, president comes over. Well, Mr. President, come to my private dining room. Now, this room is home to an original chandelier above the bar, and the Tiffany ribbon window above the entrance frames a view of the Great Hall. And they say today, the Princess Room is a cozy spot to enjoy a cocktail before or after dinner. I bet it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Now, in 1944, the Mount Washington Hotel actually hosted the Bretton Woods International Monetary Conference. So delegates from 44 nations came to the Mount Washington Hotel, and they established the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. So this is where they set the gold standard at $35 an ounce, and they designated that the U.S. dollar would be the backbone of international exchange. So the signing of the formal documents took place in the Gold Room, which was located off the hotel lobby. And this room is actually now preserved as a historic site. And if you go to look this up, they call it the Bretton Woods Agreement. So if you're interested going a little further into that, look up the Bretton Woods Agreement. And that's where you'll find, you know, all the information about setting the price per ounce of gold and saying, you United States, y'all are going to be the backbone of international trade. We're going to use your dollar. And I mean, that still kind of holds true to this day, because if you're trading internationally, most of the time it gets converted to US dollars,
right?
Not rupees or Canadian loonies. Or so I don't want to go buy something and get a pocket full of loonies.
I know that happens already. You know,
yeah.
I go, why am I here with all these loonies?
Right. Got a pocket full of loonies tonight.
I used to have a loonie. I don't know what I did with it.
Married her.
Oh my God. Oh God. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, man.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Oh man.
How to derail Graveyard Tale.
It was worth it. That's one of the best jokes we've had in forever. Totally unscripted.
Yeah. Because that didn't pop into my head until 2 seconds after he said, I don't know what I did with it.
Yeah.
So in 1955, the hotel was actually sold to Mr. and Mrs. Morris J. Fleischer from Philadelphia, and they operated the hotel for about 15 seasons until its sale in 1969 to Mount Washington Development Company. Now, the Bretton Woods Corporation acquired the property in 1975. Now, under their ownership, the Mount Washington Hotel was listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and 6,400 acres of the woods there were sold to the United States government for inclusion in the White Mountain National Forest. So that's a lot of acres, man. To be owned by that one hotel. And they sold that. They still got a bunch of acres. So.
Well, yeah, you could sell half of it and still never, ever see your neighbor.
Right. Man, I would love to have that many acres.
Yeah.
Ashley and I have been talking about that. I said, I want enough acres that we can put family on the other side of it, and it still takes 10 or 15 minutes to see them.
Yeah.
You know, that's driving as the crow flies.
Keep an eye on them with a telescope.
Yep, right.
Oh, they're coming.
Yep.
You know. See
the dust cloud coming, and I'm like, oh, let's turn all the lights off, pretend we're not home.
Raise the drawbridge.
Yeah. Have you fed the gators in the moat recently? No? Good.
That's right.
Well, in 1986, the United States Department of the Interior recognized the historical and architectural significance of the Mount Washington Hotel, and they gave it a National Historic Landmark designation. The 1896 Breton Arms Inn, a Victorian inn that is located on the hotel grounds, they were also awarded National Historic Landmark status as part of this designation that was given to the Mount Washington Hotel. So originally,
this Comfort Inn that you've got out in the front yard.
We'll give that it's old. We'll make it historic too.
I'm teasing though.
It's not a Comfort Inn. It's more like a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah.
Originally, the hotel squash courts, they turned into the Cave, and that was later converted into a bar and grill. So the Cave actually continued to operate as a speakeasy during Prohibition, and this is why I added this little tidbit, because we just talked about Prohibition a few episodes ago. The Cave Bar and Grill, it kept operating during Prohibition, and the guests there would drink liquor out of teacups. So it would look like they were just drinking tea. Now, in the back room were windows where they could watch the front drive to see if any officials were coming up the long driveway. So today, the cave is a popular gathering place that has live entertainment on some evenings and televised sporting events. But I thought that was neat that this whole cave used to be squash courts. They turned into this thing that you could then sit and, like we were talking about the relatives coming over, you could see the law coming and put away all your liquor before they got there.
And I read some, in some of the stories that I found, there was a lot of information about these people that had stayed there, as far as they were just saying, hey, this place is great. We really enjoyed it. The cave was regularly mentioned and how cool it absolutely is. So, I mean, as cool as it sounds, apparently it's that much cooler. So,
yeah, right. So
if you get a chance to get up there, go check out the cave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I ever go to New Hampshire, it will be to go to this place.
Right. That's the only reason to.
Yeah, I'm sure. All right, guys, let's take a second and talk about one of tonight's sponsors, Fume. Now, we've all got bad habits. I do. I know Adam does.
Yep.
And, sometimes your bad habits are a little more obvious than others. But, you think, okay, you're trying to stop this bad habit. You go out with your buddies, and next thing you know, you've picked it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's happened to me dozens of times.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's happened to you, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
We always feel that urge to reach for that bad habit or even worse, borrow, somebody else's bad habit when you're trying to quit. So, the Fume is a great alternative to replace that bad habit. I like the fact that, when I breathe through the Fume, I get that flavor.
Right.
That orange vanilla. Look, a creamsicle is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, man.
So that orange vanilla flavor, it reminds me of what I wanted to do without the harm from the bad habit. And when you first get your Fume device and you open it up and you feel it in your hand, it's very tactile. It's got a nice weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool looking. It's interesting. It's a conversation piece. So even if you have that bad habit that you say, I'm gonna use this Fume and I'm gonna kick this bad habit, other people are gonna notice, and you might even help them kick theirs.
That's a good point. And Fume, like Matt said, it's a flavored air device, and it delivers the flavor directly to your mouth, so you instantly get that taste of the orange vanilla. So yeah, it's like a creamsicle or a cool mint. If you want something kind of minty, they have a cool mint. They've got a maple pepper, which I really enjoy. But Fume fills the void that ditching a bad habit can leave, because you still have something to reach for. Fume, it's not a vape. There's no nicotine in it. So you can use it anywhere, and it's non-addictive. And they have non-toxic flavors, so it's a guilt-free alternative. And Fume continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their product, and Fume is backed by doctors in the U.S. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, you can use our code TALES, TALES, to get a free gift with your Journey Pack. All you got to do is head to tryfume.com, that's TRYFUM.com, and use our code TALES, TALES, or if you're watching the video of this, you can scan the QR code that's on screen, and you can get a free gift with your order today.
Yeah, just go to tryfume, that's TRYFUM.com, and use our promo code TALES, or scan the QR code on screen to get a free gift with your order today. But, when you're looking at a hotel that, number one, is this old, okay, you're thinking, God, there's bound to be some paranormal activity up here. I mean, when you like I said, it kind of looks like the Stanley. There were a lot of people that says it reminds them of that. One review that I read said that it reminded them of the Timber Lodge or whatever, which was the hotel that they used for the outside scenes, in The Shining. They filmed it inside the Stanley, but they also filmed outside of the Timber. I think I'm saying that right. Timber Lodge, isn't that what it was?
I think so.
It's that was the exterior shots. So it is built in that same style.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big high-rise building. It spreads out. It's kind of angular, the way big circular drive where you come up to that main lobby. Really cool looking. Also kind of spooky.
Yeah. Real
I think
creepy
it's
looking.
spooky because of those movies.
Probably.
Because of The Shining and other movies that took place in big old hotels.
Yeah.
I think that's why people look at it nowadays and be like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
kind of creepy. It's because we kind of were programmed by Hollywood like that.
Yep. That's true. That's true.
Now, of course, Caroline Stickney was known as the princess, to everyone there, the staff and everybody. They just referred to her as the princess. And as Adam said, she stayed at the hotel for most of the year. Okay, so she was a regular there. People knew that she would be there. When Caroline's husband, when Joseph Stickney built it, he put all these things in for her.
Right.
Okay. I mean, these things were there for her, like Adam mentioned, the private dining room, that was for her. And, so not only did she own it after her husband's death, a year after the hotel opened, it was built with her in mind all along.
Right.
So it was meant for her from the beginning. So after she died, doesn't it make sense that she's like, this was mine and I'm not leaving?
Yeah.
And visitors have reported frequently the sighting of the princess.
Mm-hmm.
The sightings of an elegant woman in Victorian dress are seen in the hallways. There are light taps on doors when no one is outside. Objects inside guest rooms will suddenly disappear and then reappear in the exact place where they were lost. But the most common sighting of Princess Caroline is in room 314, which, as Adam mentioned, was her suite. Okay.
Sweet.
And the most common reports is that they see her sitting on the edge of the bed. Okay. Some people say they kind of feel something on their feet and it stirs them awake. And as they look down, there is this image of Princess Caroline sitting on the bed, taking her hair down like one bobby pin at a time.
So kind of residual then.
Kind of, yeah. That's more or less really what we're looking at here. Not necessarily acknowledging the fact that there's living people sleeping in her bed.
Right, right.
So as I researched this, I kind of took a different approach based on the information that I had available. A lot of times we see, when we start digging into this, we'll find all these paranormal research teams that have been through there. There'll be YouTube videos of tours and so forth. Then we'll see travel info, and then the typical haunted websites that discuss these places will have, and they all pretty much said the same thing. This place is haunted by the ghost of Princess Caroline. People have seen her. She knocks on the door. She moves stuff. Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Big whoop. Okay. I mean, how many hotels have we seen like this?
Right.
But one thing that that the research for this hotel had that most of the others do not is regular stories from people that have stayed there. Typically, I may luck out and get one, I may find something, a snippet on TripAdvisor or something like that.
Yeah.
But for this place, I found several. Okay. I found several stories that people wrote in detail what their experience was staying at the Mount Washington Hotel. So this first one, this is one particular guest wrote on her blog about the nights that she spent in the haunted room 314. So she actually stayed in the room. She wrote that she and her husband were on a weekend getaway to the mountains and booked a room at the Mount Washington. Upon arrival, they were told by the desk clerk that their room was not quite ready, but if they liked, they could upgrade their stay to a suite. So they said, shoot, yeah. That sounds great. But when they told the elevator operator their room number, he gave them a funny look. He said, oh, the haunted room. So apparently they didn't know the full story. They knew a little, but they didn't know the whole thing. So she goes on with her story. And from this point, I'm going to read what she wrote for this next little bit.
Okay.
She says, on our first night, we settled in after a nice dinner for a good night's sleep. At about 1 a.m., I was awakened by the scratching sound on the windowsill next to the sitting area. I wondered if it might be windy outside. As I was getting ready to get up and look, I heard one loud clank on the pipe near the window. I was frozen in bed. I listened carefully and could hear no wind, and the heat was not on in the hotel, so I knew there was no reason for the pipes to clang. Said, I was beginning to wonder about the ghost of Carolyn Stickney. In the morning, I Googled her story. I found out that Carolyn often appeared in room 314. Some guests have felt a nudge from her. Others have seen a figure sitting on the bed brushing her hair, and others have reported hearing sounds. I was beginning to wonder about the sounds I had heard the night before. So she says the next day, her husband was taking a nap in the room while she visited the spa. He told her that he felt someone nudge his shoulder, and he assumed that it was her coming back from the spa, but then quickly realized that he was alone. Now that night was even more eventful than their first. She says that evening we went to bed about midnight. At 2 a.m., the metal cover on the ice bucket in the room fell off the empty bucket, hitting the floor with a clang. I sat straight up in bed. I could smell flowery perfume in the air around me, but I could not budge from the bed. And I don't wear perfume. So where was the smell coming from, and why would the lid come off the ice bucket?
Yeah,
I was now convinced that there was a ghost in the room. The next morning, we told our waitress about what we had experienced, and she just nodded with a knowing smile. So, I mean, look, that's not a huge thing, but you don't expect that kind of stuff.
Right.
You hear noises when you stay in a hotel. You don't expect the ice bucket lid to flip off in the middle of the night and land on the floor.
No.
And you don't necessarily expect to smell perfume in your room if you don't wear it. And that scent of flowery perfume, that's another common occurrence, but not just in 314. It's in different spots around the hotel. Now,
so it's got to be like her traveling.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was her hotel. She went wherever she wanted. If she wanted to go over here, that she went there, and she wore her perfume, and sometimes you can smell it. Now, Redditor DSRI74 wrote about the night that he and his wife stayed in the Mount Washington Hotel. They were celebrating their anniversary in 2019. And he says, we stayed in one of the hotel's corner vista rooms. had phenomenal views, but they're located at the end of the long hallways. He says, so my wife and I go to dinner in the main dining hall, and they set up a table for Carolyn with the original china and silverware every night. And that you heard Adam mention that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I took a photo of the table and went and had dinner. As we finish and leave, my wife notices the knife and fork are on the plate. We mentioned it to the hostess, who immediately tells the manager next to her that she did see the silverware move. And then he says, my dumbass forgot to take a picture of the silverware position after dinner. We took a picture of it before. He forgot to take one after.
Yeah.
He says, now, after going to the Speakeasy Club for a few drinks, we started to return to our room. But in the hallway, half down the floor, is a huge white mist. Its form becomes somewhat more human, he said, as I start fumbling around and drop my phone.
Of course.
He said, it tilts what would be its head towards us and then vanishes into the room. Guess which room it vanished into?
314.
314.
Yep.
Says we go to the main desk to speak with one of the people, and they call the manager. The manager listens, writes a few things down, and says we were the third party that evening to report seeing Carolyn in the hallway.
Really?
Yeah.
So she's busy that day.
Yeah. So there are definitely times where the Mount Washington is more active. And you know what? I would be curious that if you go in the winter, like in the winter, if you experience anything, because in life, that was when Princess Carolyn would go to the south of France.
Yeah. And I know originally they didn't open during the winter. Like they closed up for the winter. So you could be onto something. And
I tried to find the place where she would be in the south of France to see if maybe it was haunted in the wintertime. I couldn't find any info.
Oh, yeah.
Leading me.
Yeah.
But I thought, wouldn't that be a cool thing?
Mm-hmm.
Actually see an international ghost.
Yeah, still travels.
That still travels. Goes back overseas. That would be crazy. It would
cool.
Really take that idea that this is a residual haunting and turn it on its head.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you do research on haunted places, you get all kinds of websites, okay? But the one I found doing this was a first, okay? The lifestyle site, Classy Girls Wear Pearls. It showcases design and fashion ideas, but the owners apparently had an interesting experience at the Mount Washington Hotel. I mean, this is not a website. I mean, just to give you an idea, when I clicked on this story and this is where it took me, and I'm kind of like, who wrote this? And so I'm looking and I'm seeing, the lady that wrote it, her name is Sarah. She runs the website, this is hers. She has a shop. They started by like selling handmade jewelry, and now they have, a full line of clothing. Her husband is apparently, they've named the line of clothing after him, or he may design it. I don't know. I was like, how in the world did I get here?
Yeah.
But it's because she had a very long blog about the night they stayed, or one of the nights they stayed in the Mount Washington Hotel, because they're from New England. So apparently they've been many, many times.
That's cool.
So like I said, they explained that they visited the hotel many times, but other than one of them freaking out after thinking that he saw a man's face in the bathroom mirror, their stays had been fairly uneventful. But that would change after their stay during a ghost hunt weekend, which was on New Year's Eve, and it was hosted by Amy Bruni and Grant Wilson of Ghost Hunters.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah, and apparently Sarah is friends with Amy, and so that's how they got the invitation to come. Pretty cool.
Neat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah, her husband Keel, and their young son Harry visited. They had retired to their room after an evening of ghost hunting and trying to capture EVPs. And she goes into what we know as what a ghost hunt weekend is like. Okay. There's little speakers and they're telling stories about things they've experienced, and, they're talking about the equipment, and you're breaking up into groups and you're going, and one group is trying to get EVPs and another group's got an SLS camera and all this other stuff. So, it's a lot of fun. It seems it's kind of difficult to get a real feel of what a ghost hunt would be like when you've got that many amateurs running around.
Yep.
And me and Adam don't claim to be professional ghost hunters. We are not.
No.
We are semi-professional podcasters.
Right.
that talk about professional ghost hunters.
Exactly. Nothing we do are we professionals at. So we're
right.
Semi-professional at some things, amateurish at a whole lot of other things.
All right. Now, Sarah's brother-in-law-to-be, Dan, was along with them on this trip, and he was actually in an adjoining room. Now, Sarah explains that Harry, their young son, slept in a portable crib beside their bed, and it was their routine to keep the bathroom door cracked with the light on for him. Now, once in bed, the bathroom light suddenly turned off. So they thought it was Dan coming from the other side of the room. I guess it would be like a Jack and Jill bathroom. That was how they were connected.
Oh, yeah.
So they called out to Dan and asked him to leave the light on for Harry, but they got no response. Suddenly, the bathroom door slammed shut. So Keel got up to check on the situation, and he crossed through the bathroom into the adjoining room, and there he found Dan in bed. Furthermore, Dan said he had been in bed the entire time and was unaware of what had happened.
Really?
Yeah. So not only did something turn the light off in their room, which was not room 314, it slammed the door. Which, that'll rattle your chains a little bit for sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, they knew the stories. They'd been to the hotel many times. In fact, Sarah writes that they had actually stayed in room 314. That was the night that Keel thought he saw a man's face in the bathroom mirror.
Oh, yeah.
But Sarah says up until this point, she had never really experienced anything. And I thought that's really cool. I mean, that is somebody's personal haunted experience right there.
Yeah.
Now Sarah goes on to say that other odd things happened that night around the ghost hunt. They had been in room 314 earlier that night, with Amy trying to capture EVPs, but had left because they said they really weren't getting anything. They also said that they did, I wish I could think of it, and she doesn't write it. The name of the method where you put on the headphones.
Estes?
The Estes method. Okay, so
Yep.
we did a whole show on this, and I couldn't remember it. So the Estes method, and so if you've heard that, you know what I'm talking about. So you have one investigator that puts on headphones, noise isolating headphones. They can't hear anything around them. And you have another investigator not wearing headphones asking the spirits questions.
Right.
The headphones are connected to a spirit box. So the person wearing the headphones is going to call out what they hear come across the spirit box. Okay. It's almost like a double blind experiment. You're not going to know what questions I'm asking, so you can't fake it. All you can do is repeat what you hear on the spirit box. And so they're doing this, and nothing is too exciting. But later, Amy calls or texts Sarah and says, "Hey, they're telling me that the spirit box in there keeps calling out Keel's name." Now, I thought that was interesting because Keel Keil is not a common name, at least not around here.
No.
Okay. So for the spirit box to be calling out the name, that's really weird. And Sarah said, we didn't know any of these people. Amy wasn't in there at that time. So nobody in there knew their names, knew who they were. They were just like another set of people that were there for the weekend.
Right. So
it just kept calling. Now, she said that absolutely freaked him out, which it would me too. If you had been in a room earlier and then you leave and now the spirit box is calling out your name.
Yeah. I want that guy back. I want that guy back.
That's right. They did. They went back.
Yeah.
And actually, when they said when they made it back, Grant was in there at the time. And so they told Grant, hey, this is Keel. And so they brought him in, told the spirit that Keel was there, but apparently the moment was gone.
Yeah.
They said there was another weird thing that happened that night where there was one of the spirits was saying that he was a man and that he was just there to meet the women. Okay. And then at some point in the night, a drunk guy shows up in that room while they're trying to do EVPs, and he's kind of causing a ruckus. But he said he talked about how high he was and that he was just here to talk to the women. But the funny thing is Sarah writes that the next day when they tried to find the guy, that they couldn't find him anywhere.
That's interesting.
So they were like, it was like, was he there? Was he a guest? Nobody could pinpoint him.
That's interesting.
So that's kind of neat. But, I've never been able to collect that many personal accounts of a night in a hotel. Like I said, most of the time they're just, we were there and nothing happened. We were there and the lights blinked. Or during the night, we heard somebody knock on the door and there nobody was there. Spooky. That's what I normally get. But for these full-on descriptions of how their stay went and the experiences they had, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, I like that. And it is cool to me because two of the things you talked about reminded me of the Thomas House Hotel. Obviously, the ghost hunt weekend, because we went up there and did a ghost hunt weekend. Forgot the group's name that did it. But anyway.
It was the Tennessee Wraith Chasers was the group that hosted that night. Yeah.
That's it. Good dudes. I remember talking to them. But so Matt and I do have experience with like a ghost hunt weekend. But you mentioned down the hallway a mist forming. Okay. Do you remember the picture that I took? I still have it. I favorited it on my phone.
Yep.
Where we're looking down the hallway where Sarah's supposed to stay, and I caught mist going down the hallway.
Yep.
Now, we didn't see it form into anything.
Yeah.
But there was mist that showed up on the picture, not to our eyes.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't see it. Plus, the hotel was dark at this point. All the lights were off.
Right.
And I know there for a period of time, you and I and Amanda and Austin were sitting in one of the, like, almost, I guess it was like a sitting room.
Yeah.
It was awful small, and we were just in there kind of away from the group, trying to capture something on recording, and that was about the time it happened. But of course, it was shortly after that we had the SLS camera thing happen. Where I'm reaching out and this stick figure on the camera is touching my hand and doing stuff, and it was, I couldn't see it. They were telling me what was going on.
Yeah.
Watching on the screen. So, yeah, really cool. But you're right. There were a lot of similarities. It made when I was reading that story in particular, it made me think a lot about that ghost hunt weekend we spent at the Thomas House. It was really cool.
Yep.
Another cool thing that the Mount Washington Hotel does is they keep a book of all the photos of Carolyn's spirit that have been taken over the years, and you can request to see it. You can go to the front
cool.
desk and you can ask to see the book, and it'll have photos that people have taken that have stayed there. But as I said, it's not just the princess's room where there are some weird occurrences. The hotel ballroom also has some activity, and a lot of people will report that they hear music playing on its own in the ballroom. And the tower suites, lights are known to turn on and off. This is another spot where you suddenly will smell perfume out of nowhere. And this is kind of a cool one. Tubs have been known to fill themselves.
Well, wouldn't that be handy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think faucets turning on and off, we've heard before, but we've also talked about how much energy would be required to actually turn a faucet knob.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to flip a light switch. Turning a knob enough to turn on the flow of water, that's something different. I mean, that takes a lot more energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Fred Hollis, who was a longtime hotel employee, he was the head of security in 2007 when television's Ghost Hunters filmed at the Mount Washington. He told them about a senior employee staying in the South Tower where staff could rent living quarters. So, if you worked at the hotel, you could actually rent, a place to live.
Right. That's cool.
The employee heard a tap on her bedroom door late one evening. When she opened the door to look, she saw a white, shadowy figure, which promptly disappeared. Now, members of the Omni Mount Washington team report feeling emotionally and physically heavy when they enter the South Tower. So much so that the sensation makes it hard to walk.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So
like
it's
a sludge.
It's like somebody draped a big, heavy, wet blanket on you.
Wow.
It just kind of slows you down, But during their investigation, which the Ghost Hunter investigation in 2007 was actually the first real paranormal investigation of the hotel.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
For this place to have been that old and nobody had made an attempt yet.
Right.
But the Ghost Hunters team captured an EVP while they were in room 314. And when they asked, "Princess, are you there?" the EVP equipment registers the voice replying with, "Hello? Is someone there?" Then they asked, "Princess, can you at least let us know you're in here?" And the EVP registers the voice replying, "Of course I'm in here. Where are you?"
Dude, and I remember hearing this EVP because you and I talked about it while we were doing research for this place. This is one of the clearest EVPs I've heard.
Yep.
And I didn't tell you this because I was going to wait for this episode, but one of the things that EVPs like this make me think is this makes me go back to maybe ghosts, spirits that we see here are still alive in another timeline that's bumping up against ours. Because if she says, "Of course I'm here, where are you?" Okay, that would make me think she may be in another timeline experiencing the ghost hunters as the ghosts in the hotel, and she's there. So when we're looking for spirits in a hotel, we are witnessing, quote, paranormal activity of spirit that we're just catching glimpses of or hearing audible, like you'll hear conversations like the disembodied voices or something like that, or you'll catch EVPs. What if it's the exact same thing on the other side where they're at, and we are the ghosts to them? Because, you died in this timeline, but the timeline that we're interacting with is 100 and something years ago and you're still living here. It's not a residual haunting. It's you're seeing through the veil at what's going on in that timeline in this same place.
That's interesting. You know what? I've thought about that same thing with, residual hauntings, stone tape type hauntings.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing through the veil slightly.
Right.
But I've never really thought about it for an intelligent haunting, one that would respond to you.
Yeah.
Being that too. And I like that idea. I mean, I think that's a pretty cool theory.
I keep thinking that more and more, when we run across stuff like this and we read or see interactions with spirits that seem to be interacting with you, but they don't, they're not acknowledging that they're dead.
Right.
And they're wondering where you are. They can't exactly see you.
Yeah.
I feel like if they were a spirit in that room made of something else, then they would know where you're at. But
yeah,
if it's a timeline thing, then they wouldn't know where you're at either. They would just hear your voice, or they would catch glimpse of your EMF meter flipping past their face, and go, what the heck was that? In their timeline.
Yeah, weird lights.
Yeah. See, floating lights would be your EMF moving around.
I like it. So, yeah, I mean, everybody tries to categorize these hauntings, and we do it too.
Sure.
But, at some point, I think that the paranormal activity that is attributed to hauntings there is such a wide possibility of explanations that why can't it be a little bit of all of it?
Right.
I mean, if we know that some investigators always think that it's demonic, and some of them always think that it's time slips, and some of them always default to stone tape. What if it's a little bit of all of that?
Yeah, it's all the same phenomena seen or experienced in different ways.
Yeah. And we've discussed the idea that hauntings are very personal. How you experience something like this is not going to be how I experience it.
Right.
But because, whether it's your beliefs or your thought process or
your genetics,
your genetics, your history, your connection to where you are, any of that stuff, it's going to make it a lot more personal, to you as an individual, so if you're an obstinate, this doesn't exist, I don't believe in it, chances are you're never going to have an experience that's going to change your mind.
Right.
Now, sure enough, I've had people like, well, I've always been a skeptic until this happened. Well, I think if you're a skeptic, that's fine. You're not completely closed off to the idea. It just something was exactly what you needed to poke through and go, what about this? You're like, whoa, well, maybe it is real. I don't know, but this was, I really enjoyed researching this place. I mean, like I said, it was a little bit different. The information I found was a little bit different, but I think it was a lot of fun, and it gave us some insight on what you as a guest could potentially experience on your visit to the Mount Washington Hotel.
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed this place. The types of hauntings, the types of experiences people have there, they're not way different than other ones we've seen, but the way they're captured, the way they're seen, the way they're told was different. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Have you had an experience at the Mount Washington? Are you familiar with it? Do you live in the made up, non-existent state of New Hampshire?
Yeah.
hey, let us know. And the best place to do that is in our Facebook group. It's called The Graveyard. You know, we've got thousands of people in there sharing personal stories, telling jokes, just having a good time. And, you know, no one's going to make fun of you. No one's going to pick on you. Everybody just wants to hear your amazing experiences. And don't forget to check out our website, which is graveyardpodcast.com. And there you can find links to purchase Graveyard Tales merchandise. You can listen to the show and you can become a patron. And again, thank you to all of the folks that have donated to the work that Adam and I do. We sincerely appreciate it, and it absolutely keeps the show going. So until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.